My approach has changed some, partly because of Mr. Trump, but mainly because the American stock market has been going up since 2009, and never in American history have we had such a long period without a stock market problem. Never. This has never happened before. So I have sold most stock markets in the world. I still own some in China. I still own some in Uzbekistan, but I have sold everywhere because I'm worried that the world is going to face problems. Well, when you look at markets, a way often to make money is to find out what stocks have gone up the most, and they're probably also the most overpriced. I mean, there's never a simple answer. I wish there were a simple answer. But so I will look to see what has gone up the most. And normally I will sell short the ones that have gone up the most during this long bull market. But who knows? I don't know yet. I will try to find stocks that are overpriced and where there's a lot of exuberance or maybe even hysteria. That is a good way to sell short when you're ready. Well, those are good candidates, and they probably will be. Yes, those are the stocks that have gone up a lot. They go up all the time. Everybody thinks they will never go down. So that's the kind of stock, and those stocks, the seven, are certainly high on the list of stocks that will probably be where I will sell short. And by the way, I'm sure I will only short in the United States when I start selling short, because that's where most of the action has been. But if you can find the stocks that have gone up the most, they're also usually the stocks which are the most overpriced, where there's a lot of exuberance, and that is sometimes a way to make money. Well, as I say, right now, I am not investing in many things around the world because the stock markets, anyway, have been so successful in the past few years that nearly everything is at a high, and I don't like buying when everything is making highs. So my investment strategy at the moment is to have a lot of cash. I have cash in US dollars. Now, the US dollar is a very flawed currency. The United States is a gigantic debtor. So you probably, what you should say is, well, why do you own US dollars? I own US dollars because most people in the world think it's a safe haven. And when problems come, people will look for a safe haven and they think the US dollar is a safe haven. So when problems come, the US dollar is going to go up a lot. I hope that I'm smart enough to sell my US dollars when that happens, because the US is the largest debtor nation in the history of the world, and the debt gets worse and worse every day. I don't know how those people in Washington cannot count, cannot add, cannot subtract. The debt is staggering, and it keeps going higher, but nobody seems to care except me and a few other nuts like me. We're going to have financial problems again in the United States, and I would say probably in 2025 or 2026. Yes, we are overdue. It's already been the longest in American history, so we're probably going to have problems in the next year or so. Maybe they've already started. I don't know. I know that from the beginning of America, we've always had recessions. They happen every few years, whether we like it or not. But that's true of every country in the world. That's the way human beings are. So it doesn't matter whether it's Mr. Trump or who it is. We're going to have recessions in the US, and I'm afraid the next recession will be pretty bad because it's been a long time since we had one, and since the debt keeps going higher and higher and higher. I don't like saying any of this. I'm an American. I have children, American children. So of course I don't like it. But ever since I've been alive, America's been talking about solving its debt problem, and it never has. Yes, 100 years ago, in 1925, Britain was the richest, most powerful country in the world. Within 50 years, Britain was bankrupt. Bankrupt. IMF had to bail them out because they started spending and borrowing and spending and borrowing, and literally the richest country in the world in 1925, by 1976, was bankrupt. It can happen again. It has happened many times in history, and unfortunately, it will happen again. Well, in those days, everybody in America, well, everybody in the world actually, but everybody in America thought that those stocks could never go down. J.P. Morgan, which was the huge bank and investment firm in those days, bought more and more and more of those stocks because things like Avon, they said, would never go down. Now, I was somewhat inexperienced, but I had enough knowledge to know that there was no such thing that could never go down. And those stocks kept going higher and higher every day. And the major banks in America bought more every day. I knew enough and I read enough to know this could not last. And it didn't. Uh, it's the same thing may be happening again in the US. They're not 50 this time. They're 7 or whatever the number is, doesn't matter. There are stocks that go up every day, and there are people who think that they can never go down. Now, I know enough history to know that that is not the way the world works. I know enough to know that eventually those stocks are going to go down, and they're going to go down a lot. And I think it would really started at J.P. Morgan. It doesn't matter where it started. There were people who said, these companies are such good companies and so much in demand that the products and the sales and the profits will always go up. They will never go down because everybody, I mean, one of them was called Avon Products, was a cosmetics company, extremely successful company. But people said, women will use cosmetics always, and this company is so successful that it will never have a decline in profits and it will always go up. And by the way, sir, many people believed it. They bought those shares every day. They literally believed that Avon Products and companies like that would never have a decline in profits because their products were so good and the management was so good that they would never have a decline in profits. Well, if you ever hear stories like that, I suggest you should sell. Call me. You sell and then call me. Well, they sold at a high price earnings ratio. The price of the stock, as measured by the price earnings ratio, PE ratio, was extremely high. All of them. The Nifty 50 just went higher and higher and higher. The stocks got more and more expensive, and nobody cared. In fact, people said, see, that proves it. That proves what we say, that they constantly get more and more expensive. So we must be right. I own gold and I have no plans to sell my gold. I'm not buying it now. Gold is at an all-time high. I do own silver. I bought more silver recently, and I will probably buy more silver because silver is down nearly 50% from its all-time high. Gold is at an all-time high. I hope that I never sell my gold. I hope that my children own my gold someday. So I do not plan to sell the gold. In my view, everyone should own some gold, including me, and I will not sell my gold. I hope if it goes down, I hope that I'm smart enough to buy more. In the meantime, I'm buying silver. I'll show you. See? Silver, as I said before, silver for centuries has been a store of value, and a store of wealth, a measure of wealth all over the world. Now, not every country every year, obviously, but I mentioned to you before, Jesus Christ was sold for 30 pieces of silver because silver was the store of value. Silver was the money in that part of the world at that time. Silver is still extremely important in many parts of the world. So I repeat, I don't want my children ever to sell the silver. I don't want my children ever to sell the gold because history would indicate that for the rest of their lives, silver and gold will have great value. They won't go up every year, but over their lifetime, silver and gold will be valuable. Maybe the world has changed. Maybe and silver and gold are not going to be valuable forever, but they always have been valuable, or nearly always. I make mistakes, sir. I certainly make mistakes, but I have learned in my life that when there's a disaster, it is probably an opportunity. I think it's in the Chinese language, the word opportunity and risk, or opportunity and disaster, are the same word, the same symbol. I certainly know that throughout history, if there's been a disaster, some people see that as an opportunity and they take advantage of the opportunity. I mean, if your house burns down, it's a disaster. But for somebody, it's a good opportunity because they have to build a house. They have to build a new house. So when you see a disaster, try to think in terms of, who is going to benefit from this disaster? Because somebody always benefits no matter how bad things are. Well, actually, Japan, for what it's worth, a few years ago, there was a big typhoon, big weather problem in Japan. Everything collapsed. And I started investing in the Japanese market because everything was collapsing. And turns out, eventually, things did well in Japan. The Japanese market had been going down for decades, as you know. Then the Japanese market started going up last year or so. I sold too soon. I made a very big, I more than tripled my money in Japan. But I sold. I wish I still owned my Japanese shares. I didn't know they was going to be as successful as the Japanese have been. So that was certainly a great success for me. But I sold too soon. I certainly sold too soon. I have not sold short in Japan or anything, at least not this time around. In the past, I have sold short in Japan, but I have nothing in Japan right now. I wish I still did. Well, miss, sir, I can only tell you what I'm doing. I have a lot of cash. Who knows if I'm right? I certainly make mistakes. But for me, for Jim Rogers in 2025, I own a lot of cash. I own US dollars as a safe haven. The US dollar is not a safe haven. America is the largest debtor nation in the history of the world, and the debt's going higher every day. The reason I own US dollars as a safe haven is because most people in the world still think the US dollar is a safe haven. So when problems come, people will go to the US dollar and the US dollar will go higher. That's my plan. I don't know if it's going to work, but that's my plan. Well, interest, anything that pays interest, if interest rates go higher, whatever that is will go down. So in that sense, it's risky, of course. But everything is risky, and ultimately everything is risky. If you invest in a country, you have to make sure that the currency is a sound currency. So there's no such thing as risk-free in my view. Well, at first interest will go down because when economies slow down, there's not that much, there's less demand for money. But as things get bad, interest rates will go higher because people will be worried and scared. And so they are very worried about owning any assets, even interest-bearing assets. When you have recessions, people get worried about everything. And at least for a while, interest rates go higher in those countries. If the country's stable, I mean, if the country's sound, of course, the interest rates will come down eventually. But when things are getting bad in a country, people get scared and they're worried about their return of the money. Well, I still own shares in China because I consider China will have a great future, certainly in the next few days or weeks or months, I hope. The only other market right now where I have owned shares is Uzbekistan. I have been buying shares in Uzbekistan. I mean, not many because it's a new market. It's just starting. You know, they didn't have a big stock market in Uzbekistan when the communists took over. And now they're trying to develop a new stock market. They're trying to run Uzbekistan the way you and I would run Uzbekistan. So I hope that there's a promising future there. They have lots of assets in Uzbekistan, smart people. You know, Uzbekistan has a long and successful history, and I think it's now being developed again. Well, agriculture is probably more promising than most other commodities because agriculture has been depressed for a long time in much of the world. Uh, I know you went to school, but most of your friends did not become farmers. They became stockbrokers or journalists or something. Agriculture has been a depressed part of the world economy for a long time. So agricultural prices are somewhat depressed. Well, there's no question that Mr. Trump's policies in Washington will have a big influence on the world. Mainly, I mean, Washington and America are the largest economies in the world and the most important in the world. So whatever happens, but especially in the case of Mr. Trump, because Mr. Trump likes to take bold action. Whether he's right or not is not the point. The point is that Mr. Trump is going to take bold actions somewhere, some places, and bold actions are going to affect all of us. You should be worried about it because, yes, I mean, you know the facts as well as I do, sir. I mean, Korea is a big trading country with many developed industries. They have a lot of smart engineers in Korea for some reason. So sure, if the US goes bad, it's going to have a big effect in Korea. It's going to have a big effect in the world, which will also have an effect in Korea. So if the US or when the US has an economic problem, it's going to have a big effect in Korea. There's nothing we can do about it. I mean, Korea has been successful. Part of your success has been trading with the world. And if the world has a problem, you'll have a problem. If I could just quickly about Japan, Japan has had declining population for 15 years now. I mean, Japan is theoretically going to have big problems in the future. The population's been declining for 15 years. The debt goes higher and higher and higher. I mean, something has to change in Japan, or Japan's going to have serious problems someday. Well, because of where you are and who you are, you will be badly affected if Japan continues to decline and deteriorate. Like it was in the US, the US is certainly going to get worse. So those are two of your largest trading partners, and both of them do not have a great future. That's going to have a negative effect on Korea. You also have China as a big neighbor and a big trading partner. But if America and Japan have problems, you're going to have even more problems. Yes, and I don't know, when I'm in Korea or when I meet Koreans, Nobody seems to be very concerned the fact that the birth rate is declining, that the population is going to disappear. I seem to be the most concerned of anybody, and I'm not Korean. But if you don't start having babies, there are not going to be any Koreans. I mean, I hate that because I love Korea now, and I like nearly all the Koreans I know. So, I mean, I know Seoul is trying to get people or is encouraging people to have babies, but for some reason, Koreans are not doing it. Now, it's your country, it's not mine. You do it your way. But I am concerned that the birth rate, the population of Korea is going to disappear unless something happens. Once you open the 38th parallel, once there is no DMZ, the Korean Peninsula is going to be the most exciting country in the world for 20 or 30 years for many reasons. I didn't say unification, I just said once you open the border and people can come and go as they wish. I mean, the Korean Peninsula has been there for a few thousand years, and you've been very successful at some times in your history. And I would expect Hanbando, the Korean Peninsula, to be extremely successful. You have resources, you have educated, hardworking, smart people, you have cheap labor right on the Chinese border. The Korean Peninsula is going to be extremely successful once you open the 38th parallel. If I were there, I would open it today and let people come and go. I'm not there. You know you cannot, it's not going to happen. But as far as I'm concerned, Korea is going to have an extremely exciting future. You're right there on the Chinese border. There are lots of successful countries in Asia. You're going to have a great future once you open up. Well, I suspect Mr. Trump will try again because Mr. Trump knows that if he can solve the Korean problem, it will make him even more famous in world history, especially Korean, Asian history, everybody. Whoever can solve the Korean problem is going to go down as a very famous, successful person. So I am sure Mr. Trump will try again. He has the problem that the American army tells him what to do, and the American army doesn't want to leave Korea because it's the only place that the American army can have troops on the Russian border and the Chinese border, so they don't want to leave. That's the problem that Mr. Trump has. The American army, controls Korea, and there's not much even Mr. Trump can do about that. But he will try. He will try, and I hope he does it. I hope he can solve the Korean problem or the Korean situation. Well, Miss, I don't like to use the word safe with investing because rarely is anything really safe. I mean, gold can go down a lot, and it has in previous periods. Anything can go down a lot and might. But where I have my spare money right now is in US dollars. I do own gold. I do own silver. I don't plan to ever sell my gold and silver. So I guess these would fit your definition of my safe assets, my safe havens. Yes, I don't think of anything else. I don't have farmland. I would consider farmland a safe haven, but I don't have any. I live in Singapore. Singapore is not an agricultural nation. Uh, I guess gold, silver, and US dollars would be my answer to your question. So I would tell my daughter not to invest in anything unless there's something that she herself knows a lot about. Don't listen to me. Don't listen to anybody else. Only invest in what you yourself know a lot about. If I told you you can only have 20, 25 investments in your life, you would be very, very careful. You would not go around listening to hot tips. You would not go to the restaurant and listen to people talk about all the hot things they're investing in. You would be extremely careful, and you would probably be a successful investor because you would be very careful about what you invested in. Now, many people will say, oh, that's boring. If you want to be successful, be boring. Be boring and invest in what you yourself know a lot about, even if it's boring, especially if it's boring.